I'm attorney Nick Alcock, and if you've been charged with a crime, it is always a good idea to learn the truth about your situation, learn as much as you can before you go to court, and really learn what it is that you're facing. Not just sort of the maximum, the sort of theoretical maximum. If you're charged with a class 1 misdemeanor, in theory you can get 6 months in jail. Now that's just theoretical though. And in most situations, the vast majority of situations, you really can't do that type of jail time. Something I see a lot in domestic violence cases is people, they come to my office and they don't understand how it is they could be charged with a DV designation, a domestic violence offense, for something like punching a wall, something like getting into a fight where there is no violence, there's just disturbing the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. And people get very confused about that, and they don't understand, how can I be in trouble for damaging my own property? This is where it's vital that you come into the office and we look at your case and walk you through the process, because unfortunately in the law, that designation of domestic violence doesn't mean that you are a violent offender. It doesn't mean that you used a dangerous instrument. People confuse domestic violence with a dangerous offense, and that isn't the case at all. So if you're online and you're bopping around and you're looking at stuff, and Lord knows you're probably pretty stressed right now if you're facing this type of thing, and you see, okay, well, a dangerous offense, an offense involving a weapon, is an offense that launches you in what otherwise would be a sort of normal criminal case into a different sentencing scheme, a scheme that exposes you to a lot of prison and mandatory prison if you go to trial and you lose. Please don't be confused about that though if you're charged with a domestic violence offense. A domestic violence offense is merely a designation, and there are things that will absolutely affect you. And if you do have a domestic violence offense on your record, it really can affect your life. It certainly can affect the way an employer would regard you. If they do a background check, it affects your right to bear arms. And it also just affects the type of outcome that you can expect. So for example, somebody who's outside a bar who makes too much noise and is disturbing the peace and quiet of the neighborhood and maybe breaks something, criminal damage, that person is not charged with domestic violence because that person isn't involving someone that they have a relationship with, someone that they live with. And so because of that, the government, the prosecutors will treat you a certain way. Quite honestly, that will be a less significant case, that will be a less serious charge than the exact same conduct where if the person who happens to be around is somebody that you live with. Somebody, if you do, it doesn't make any sense. Like you think that, well, if I did this in a bar, if I did this in a public place, I would get in more trouble than if I did it in my home. Say I broke a wall in a bar versus I broke a wall in my home. And you think that, well, you know, the home would be kind of a place where the prosecutor would be more lenient, but that isn't the case. And it isn't the case because of that domestic violence designation. If you are charged with a domestic violence offense, it's very, very important for you to learn exactly what the consequences are and make sure that before you sign any plea agreement that you fully understand what it is that you're signing. Because if you do take a plea agreement for domestic violence, there may be no way to expunge it. There is no way to clean your record in the future. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they come to my office, they go to court and they're very stressed and they sign whatever is given to them without really thinking about it. And honestly, they're relieved that they're not going to jail. So say, for example, a plea offer is made for a domestic violence offense and there's no jail. And the person says, okay, I'm going to take that plea. And then they realize, oh my goodness, I have taken a plea that will affect me, and it will affect my background checks, and it will affect my employment opportunities and security clearances. And so they come to my office and they're like, okay, well, can we expunge this? Can we make this go away? Can we reopen it? It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to say a manifest injustice occurred or there was some extraordinary set of circumstances that made that entry of a guilty plea, if it's accepted, to undo or unring the bell. So before you take a plea agreement, you always have the right to say, hey, I want to speak with an attorney. Could I have 30 days? The worst that could happen if you do that is a judge could say no. And almost always a judge would say, okay, that's fine, we'll reset it. We'll reset it within, a couple of weeks or 4 weeks or something like that, which gives you plenty of time to do your research and to learn about the charges and the effect that that plea agreement will have. In Arizona, there is no way to clean your record, quote unquote. There is merely a set-aside process, and that set-aside process is not necessarily what you think it is. And a lot of people are very, very disturbed to find out that that set aside, even if it's granted, it may not have the legal effect of that expungement, or they're taking the sandblaster and they're making the whole criminal record go away. It doesn't really work that way. So if you are charged with a domestic violence offense and you want to come in, you want to speak with an attorney, we're here to help you. My name is Nick Alcock. I'm the owner of the law firm of Alcock and Associates. We're here on the top floor of the Renaissance Building at Central in Washington. On the 26th floor, we offer free consultations. Anybody who comes in, we want to help. We treat them like family. We make sure that they leave armed with information with a better idea of what it is that they're facing. So 602-989-5000 is our number, and thanks so much for watching.